Well, welcome back to another episode of the Reality Halfway House. It's been kind of a crazy week so far, and it's only Monday. You've got levitating tree branches. You've got, what is it, obelisks? No, not an obelisk. You've got these weird alien-esque statues showing up. We're going to get into that here in a little bit. And, of course, Steven Spielberg has his new Disclosure movie coming out as the alien card is heating up. We are caught between worlds. This is the Reality Halfway House. My name is Jones Nelson. I'm your host. I wasn't going to actually do an episode today. I was going to do an episode yesterday, but I have been absolutely toast, just burning the candle at both ends. Yesterday was my first day off in like 3 weeks. I've been working just nonstop. And my day job, they have us working 6/10s, and then I've got my job at the radio station, and it's not that you care. It's just everybody that I talk to is just worn out. We're just exhausted. And I think what's so fascinating about this, we're at a time in 2026 where they're literally disclosing alien intelligence, and people are like, yeah, I don't care. I don't even care anymore. It costs $100 to fill up my gas tank, and then I have to go buy groceries for $200, and then I've got to go to job number 3, 4, and 5. So it's so bizarre that, all of our lives, they talk about little green men, and we're just in a situation now where they're actually telling us, yeah, no, they actually exist. We've been lying to you all these years. Saying, oh, no, they don't. Well, actually, they do. And now we're like, we don't even care. We're so tired. Just, like, wake me up when it's over kind of a thing. So I wasn't planning on doing an episode today because I just got off work and am totally exhausted. I can barely keep my eyes open. But I was going through some of the news when I got home, and I thought, we got to talk about this because I'm from Roswell, New Mexico. Born and raised. I mean, and I've talked about this before, but we have aliens everywhere there. I mean, if unless you've been living under a rock, it's one of those things where they've got everything you could think about aliens. They've got their downtown streetlights have got eyeballs on it, so they look like gray aliens. That like the mailboxes look like R2-D2. You just Google downtown Roswell, New Mexico, and at the end of the day, it's campy and it's cheesy, and it keeps the coffers full for the commerce taxes and all that kind of stuff. But because I grew up in that environment, I've been kind of had my finger on the pulse of this stuff forever. So it's always fascinating when I see something like this pop up, and now it's every single day it's popping up. But things keep getting weirder and weirder. So we definitely need to keep our wits about us as we're going through this. So today is probably going to be a little bit shorter, and hopefully we'll get on a little bit later this week. This is a new podcast for me. I've been on the radio for almost 30 years, so there's no stranger behind a microphone. But this whole format is a brand new foyer for me. And hopefully, my goal with all this, and this is what, my third episode. My goal for all of this is to eventually be able to bring on a co-host and be able to start doing interviews and so forth. But, as with everything, there's going to be some growing pains and some acclimation to kind of the new environment. So we're going to, kind of ease our way into as it were. So if you're out there, and I always say Radio Land because I've been doing the radio thing for so long, but if you're out there and you have interest in these topics and would be interested in teaming up for a podcast like this, let me know. You can just message me here on YouTube. You can also find me at realityhalfwayhouse@gmail.com. You can shoot me an email there as well. I would love to hear from you. So let's get into a couple of things that I thought were kind of interesting. The first one, the first one that we'll look at today, I saw this morning, and this is only the second part of it. I couldn't find the original video, but I saw it this morning before I went to work, and it's just kind of falls into that category of some of the weirdness that's going on right now. And I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit about if I could figure out how to share my screen here. This is such a this is such an interesting platform as I'm learning how to use everything here. Let me see. I'm not the most tech savvy as it goes anyway, so let's see how we go here. This one is interesting. This guy came home from work, and he's like, "Guys, I've got some help. I'll put a link to this in the show notes, and I'll see if I can find the full video too as well." But basically, he got home from work and was sitting in his backyard in a chair, and there was just a branch of a tree just hovering in the air. And he's like, "Man, I've been all over Google. I've been looking for this, looking for some kind of explanation." And in this video, as you'll see here, he's like, "Even my dog can't figure out what's going on." So check this out.
Even my dog knows something ain't right, man.
Yeah, look at that. The branch itself is just hovering in the air. It's not moving. It's a proverbial glitch in the matrix, as it were.
My dog's weird.
It's absolutely bananas. It's absolutely bananas to me. I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening with all that stuff right now, because at the end of the day, it's become so absolutely weird that we don't know. We don't even know what to expect anymore. Like, there's so many different just bizarre things. Again, I've been listening to the podcast Mysterious Universe with new host now. I actually haven't listened to the new host. I hear they're great, but I haven't listened to it. But Benjamin Grundy and Aaron Wright, and they've been talking about like really esoteric topics like this for a long time. This like world between worlds, matrixy kind of thing that we're in. And the thing is, like, every single day that we flip on the internet, or I pull out my phone to just see what's going on, there's weirder and weirder things like this. I actually want to show something else. This is what I was talking to. A few years ago, they had this like weird obelisk that was like popping up and showing. It was like popping up in random spots around the earth, and you had something similar to that popping up here, and I just wanted to kind of show this here. This is another video that I came across today.
Breaking news, and by breaking news, I mean this
and I'll link to
literally
this in the show
just
notes.
Happened last night. But in Vegas, where I live, right outside of Vegas, a 12-foot monolith showed up out of nowhere last night. Now, there's an area outside of Las Vegas, if you're familiar with Las Vegas, that's called Seven Magic Mountains. And it's this art installation. It's this gigantic structure of rocks that are different colors, and it's basically like a tourist attraction. A place where you can take photos.
It was an obelisk a couple of years ago, because it showed up in like Utah. It was like really like metallic looking. I'll have to see if I could find some links to it, because this is like 2 or 3 years ago. It was just showing up in random spots. And I guess evidently it's starting to show back up here recently. So, I mean, you've got levitating tree branches, and you've got obelisks showing back up in the news. It's getting pretty bizarre, everything that's going on. And this is all leading up to, this disclosure. On Fox News the other day, they talked about 4 different types of alien beings that are purportedly out there. You've got your grays, you've got your reptilians, you've got your, let's see, I'm trying to remember, the Nordics, and then there was like the insectoids, I think is what they said, if I'm remembering correctly. And now things are starting to get weirder and weirder. And I have to take a step back and think about this. Actually, if you look at my shirt, I've got, my recording studio is Alien Sasquatch Studio. So I'm all about everything, alien oriented. You can see the alien gray up there in the background. It's like, it's been part of my life for so long. So it's always been fascinating to me. But as things get weirder, or as they disclose more, let me rephrase that. As disclosure increases, it seems like the weird factor is increasing. That's this like weird, again, reality halfway house. I keep coming back around to it, because at the end of the day, it's like they have to put us somewhere in this in-between world. Like, we've got this old way of looking at things to where it's like, okay, aliens aren't real. We're not going to engage with any of that tomfoolery. We don't care about it anyway. To this point, to now, aliens are real, and we just have to accept the fact that that's what it is. I don't know. It's like they're herding us into a chute, all of humanity. And we just have to essentially go through and accept whatever they're feeding us as we transition from this old way of thinking to this new way of thinking. You know, I worked in finance for many, many years, and, you know, we're clearly in a process of transitioning from an old system to a new system. You know, that's a whole show for a different day, one of which I do not have the energy to get into. But suffice it to say is that this old way of doing business is just not working anymore. Artificial intelligence has a lot to do with that, because ultimately it's going through and shaping the way that businesses are contracting with other business and just carrying out their day-to-day. Part of the reason I got out of that bit is because of the fact that artificial intelligence is doing the job, you know, it probably more efficiently in some areas, and you know, more inefficiently rather in others. But we're just in a weird spot, and therefore, as things get weirder, just in terms of the quote unquote normal day-to-day life, kind of the fringe areas are getting weirder too, i.e. the floating branch and things like that. Not to mention, all across my For You page, people are seeing ghosts or apparitions. People are seeing, there's a lot more reports of like Sasquatch, Bigfoot, things like that people keep talking about. And it's almost like, you know, you've heard the expression, the veil is thinning. And I wonder if there's not validity to this. I wonder if as we get closer to whatever, you know, that whatever's coming, because clearly there's some sort of impending event. We talked a little bit about that last week, about this impending event. You know, again, Dolores Cannon talks about the splitting of the world, the different realities from themselves. And so it's tough because we don't know what this impending event is. So that's going to be something that we're going to keep an eye on. I know Peter Thiel, you know, from AI, he just moved all of his family down to Argentina, to some big mansion with a bunker, and all of the elites around the world are moving themselves into these big, you know, mansions with big bunkers and so forth. And it's like, what is it? You have a lot of people speculating, oh, we've got a big solar flare coming. Then you've got other people, you know, speculating that, oh, hey, we've got aliens themselves are coming. And so it's like, I have no idea. The big thing that I think, if I had to just go through and put on my speculative cap here, is I think more than anything, because I used to work, when I grew up, I used to work in ranching. I used to work sheep and cows. And so at the end of the day, you have to be really careful when you're herding them to make sure that they don't spook and then just go in a zillion different directions, because you can lose control of the herd really quickly. I mean, there's, in a weird way, there's like a real method to the madness to make sure that you're step by step moving them from one pen to another or one field to another. And that's where I feel like we're at. They're herding us from this one field to another. Now, maybe that's a little too over the top. I don't know. But that's just what it seems like. Because for years and years, again, they said, oh, well, you know, extraterrestrials, aliens, all that stuff is just bogus. And now they're saying, well, actually, no, they're real, and we've known about it the whole time. It just, something doesn't smell right. But all of this is leading up to this big disclosure documentary that Steven Spielberg's been talking about. And from what I gather, it's basically set to go through and explain kind of what all of these things are. And I think that there's a correlation. A few weeks ago, or I guess it was maybe like a month ago, they had the pastors, a bunch of pastors, big pastors, brought into a room or a conference call or something along those lines, to the effect of you need to prepare your congregations for what's coming, because this disclosure is supposedly or purportedly going to go through and rock the faith of, their congregations. So in other words, whatever is coming is supposedly going to go through and rock all of your faith as a Christian, or Christianity in general. And see, I was born and raised, Christian. It's like I've been going to church since I was little. Actually, I almost went into seminary years ago. That was a direction I almost went. And at the end of the day, it's like, what could they possibly be telling or revealing to us that is going to shake that faith? And part of me wonders if the bunkers are not so much for solar flash or alien invasion, but just the kind of systemic breakdown of people that have had the rug pulled out from underneath them. If you were born and raised to adhere to a certain faith, right? You have a faith in God. You have a faith in Jesus, and a way of it becomes part of your routine. It becomes part of your being. It becomes who you are. I can't, on a daily basis, you see people arguing in the comment section of, a religious post. My podcast is brand new, so it's like I don't have a comment section yet. But at the end of the day, people are like, well, actually, did you read Joel 3:5 or, whatever? And it's like, dude, there's so many different interpretations to all this stuff. And it's like everybody is these like armchair theologians. And so you've got a lot of people coming into this situation to where it's like they've got it all figured out. And with whatever they plan on disclosing to us, supposedly is going to be so intense that it's going to rock our worlds and completely change our paradigm. I don't know what it's like at this point. I don't know what they could possibly say. What the aliens are our creators and that they seeded us. I think back to that movie Prometheus, if you've ever seen it. At the very beginning, he goes through and he gives basically his DNA to the planet, if you will, and he seeds the planet with his DNA. It's a very interesting concept, and I wonder if that's where they think that they're going to go with this. I don't know. These are huge questions. These are huge questions that I don't have an answer to, but I think it behooves us to entertain some of these questions. Again, I almost went into seminary myself and ended up getting yanked into the finance industry instead. And what's fascinating is that I wonder, and this is just me speculating. But I wonder if the congregations have been down the. I'm trying to think how to word this. They've been down this road for so long, and they're so ingrained with this story that whatever comes is going to misalign or going to be such a stark contrast with that story that they're not going to be able to handle it. Like, I firmly believe in God. There's no question in my mind. I pray, I read my Bible, I firmly believe in God. But do I believe that we have the exact story right? I don't think we do. I think God is so much bigger than the box. Again, remember, God is the author of our stories, of our lives. He said, the Bible says, I knew you before I formed you in the womb. Well, if he's the author, right, of all of this, he's outside of the book. We're existing as these characters in this story in the grand scheme of things, and it's impossible for us to be able to fully understand and be able to articulate who the author of this book is. And I think because of that fact, and because a lot of the things that are in the Bible and just our religious understanding have been changed over the years, I think, and really in a way to go through and to help to make sure that we are controlled and pacified, that at the end of the day, I think that there's going to be such a backlash of people starting to come to terms. It's almost like that scene from The Matrix when literally Neo got unplugged and he's laying there in a pile of goo. I don't know. I don't know. This is going to be a very interesting thing, but what could possibly go through and shake us up so bad? I wanted to play a little clip, and again, I'll link to all of these videos in the show notes so you can go check them out for yourself to give credit where credit's due. Obviously, there's so many people that are out making videos today that are doing just phenomenal work. So I always want to preface that with, I am so appreciative that today that we have the opportunity to be able to have access to watch people and the work that they're doing, because the internet is so gigantic, it's impossible for us to be able to to keep tabs on everything. So let me pop over here so you can see it. I thought this was cool. It talks a little bit about the upcoming Disclosure. So let's check this out.
So the director of Disclosure Day, Steven Spielberg, is now making comments in preparation for the release of his movie to the general public this Thursday about how it will challenge religion and what it means to be a believer in God. Is it our specific God? I think he's referring to however that presents itself in respective religions. Or does God encapsulate the entire umbrella of the creator of different civilizations? One note to keep in mind, everyone, the underpinning agenda has to do with, are they leading humanity towards accepting transhumanism?
See, and I want to pause right there and apologize to the music in the background, but that's where my head is at as well, because it's under this auspice of, it feels like we're being led. All of our lives are like that, right? You know, I mean, we're led into the classroom, and we do our primary school, then we go to college, then we get a job where we're led. Everything about our lives, we're just being led. We're led by our paychecks. We're led throughout all of this. So again, what story have we been told about God? You know, I think that God is so much bigger than that it's going to be different than what we have expected. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a situation to where we're going to have a hard time digesting it. And I think that is going to be the biggest thing. Because, you know, here's the thing. With, like, aliens and all the jazz, I mean, it's tough because there's so much flat earth junk out there. And the thing is, I go back and forth on it. You know, I've read Genesis, and in Genesis is pretty clear where it talks about the firmament and, like, the foundations of the earth. And there's some pretty compelling evidence. But, you know, my wife and I met in astronomy class. You know, I went to a high school named after a very famous, rocketeer, rocket scientist, what have you. At the end of the day, it's like, you know, I think it's impossible for any of us to know. Again, we're characters in this story. We can't step outside of the book. So we're only privy to the pages that we're on, or the pages that we've experienced. So what does that mean? You know, at the end of the day, I think it's just one of those things where we have to be open-minded enough to be able to accept the fact that we don't know. You know, is the earth flat? Is God bigger or different than what we expect? And I think the answer to probably most of those questions is yeah. I mean, it's just all going to be different than what we expect. I think my personal feeling is there's a lot more to this earth than what we realize. I think the earth is probably bigger than what they have explained. Is it flat? I don't know. Is it oblong? I have no idea. And I'm not going to get on here and say, oh, well, it's this or that, because, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, for any of us, again, you can't point to, you can't point outside of the book. Think that if you've ever seen the movie Wreck-It Ralph, when all the characters come into the central hub in the middle, and they come in via the power cords, it's like they can look back out through their video game and they can see the arcade. We can't do that. And so we can only go through and exist in this platform to where we can see what's just around us, or what we have been fed, or where we have been led. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, today I was going to make it kind of short, just because I'm purely exhausted. But I wanted to talk about that as we're coming up on Thursday's release of the new documentary, because I do think that it's going to have a wild impact. You know, when you get somebody that has their paradigm completely shattered after they've gone through and have completely built a life around it, it makes it really hard to then try to go through and to help them put the pieces back together. I feel like perhaps we're heading towards a Humpty Dumpty type scenario, but with human beings. And depending on how open-minded you are to what's coming, and how strong your faith is. Because again, I think and I believe with the core of my being that we absolutely serve a God that's bigger than us. I do think that God is different than what we have been told. All you have to do is go through and read the apocryphal texts like the book of Enoch or the book of Jasher, which is mentioned in the Bible, the book of Jubilees. I mean, and it tells a completely different story than what we see in the King James. So, take that for what you will. But I think that there's a lot more to be disclosed, and I think that it's coming out in bite-sized bits. Although Thursday should be kind of interesting as we come up on the release. So we'll see how that goes. But like I said, keeping it short today. Again, if you've got something in particular that you'd like for me to cover, if you are an aspiring podcaster, or if you just like these types of topics and would be interested in partnering up for the show. Like I said, I've been doing radio for so long. Starting a podcast was just kind of like a foregone conclusion. It was something that I just needed to do. But I really think that it would be fun to be able to go through and to have somebody on here that would be interested in kind of pairing up or partnering up for this, because I think that it adds a lot. It adds a lot at the end of the day. So let me know, realityhalfwayhouse@gmail.com. Don't forget to give a like and a follow if you like this. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.